Hello and welcome back to Better Than Yesterday. Today, Michael and I decided to have a bit of a more financial conversation on financial literacy in your 20s, especially when you're going into the working world and you just want to sort of have your finances in order and not get stuck in the rat race, or rather, also how to get out of it and obtain a bit of financial freedom. But before we get into that, Michael, how have you been doing, bro?
Been doing so well, brother. I've had a very rough week actually with regards to work and projects going on. But managed to get everything in, bro. Everything's been handed in. So big weight off my shoulders, man. It's been a lot of work that I've been putting in, but very happy with the work I've done and so glad that it's done, bro. How's things been on your side, brother?
Yeah, no, well done. No, also well. I just finished my last test on Tuesday. So now I'm also on holiday. Glad that I've got like
Oh,
a month of recess. So just looking forward to enjoying it, resting up, and then taking on the second semester, man.
lovely stuff, bro. And I know you're doing a little bit of traveling
Yeah.
over the next week. So I'm glad we could fit this episode
Yeah,
in
no.
before you go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a great conversation, and it's gonna just be good advice that we can give through. But yeah,
Amen, bro.
so let's get into the first point. What do you have to say
Let's do
on
it.
this
Let's
topic
do it.
today, man?
Yeah, so it's an interesting topic. We've anyone who's been subscribed to this channel for a while will know that we are no strangers to talking about finances and money. It's something that me and Daniel are very
Hmm.
interested in, and it's something that we believe as young people you should be putting some thought into him. I remember we made a video
Yeah,
quite
no,
early on in
definitely.
this channel's life as well, which was called the How to Budget as a Student, and we were talking about at that time we were in our first year of studies and we were just figuring out how to budget as a
Mm,
student, and we were talking about things like the 50-30-20 rule, which is that idea or concept that you spend 50% of your income as a student on your needs, 30% on your wants, and then
mm-hmm.
20% on saving. So yeah, we've had a lot of
Savings.
interesting conversations before, bro. But I think what I'm looking forward to today is the fact that here we are. It's almost 2 years later, bro, and we're talking about the next stage of your life. Um, you know, Budgeting as a student is one
Mm,
thing because you usually don't have much of an income. But now we're looking into that next phase of our lives as we leave university, perhaps, and enter the working world. And I'm sure there's many people who are watching this video who are maybe like already in that phase of their life, or if not, they are like same as us going
mm.
into that phase. So that's why we wanted to have this conversation. Um, you know, Even in the research to this video, like it builds up our financial literacy as well, and that's what we want to do as young people:
Yes.
to be prepared, equip yourself for the next phase of life, man. And I think that is my first point. Actually, is the fact that information is your greatest tool. Information is power, and
Mm.
if you're watching this video, then I think you are taking some good steps, because the best thing you can do is just educate yourself on finances. There's some big questions that come up as you start to leave school, like, okay, now I want to maybe look to like rent a house or buy a house. But before you can do that kind of stuff, the best thing that you can do is just educate yourself. Um, Watch either YouTube videos, read books. You can find information online. I don't think it's a struggle to find information these days. But yeah, man, I think that's the first thing that you can do before you even start to say, okay, I'm going to get involved in all of these big financial things, and even taxes. It's quite a common point that the schooling system has let us down, and that they don't really tell us how taxes work. You don't really learn that kind of stuff in
About
school, really.
taxes. Yeah.
So spend some time educating yourself on that thing, and that's what I'm doing, bro, at the moment. And I know you've been attending some interesting webinars and so on about managing your money, man. So I'm keen to hear what you have
Mm.
to say, bro. But I think that's definitely the first point: is keep yourself educated. You can never have enough information, and that information. It's funny, like sometimes advice that you hear now, it sinks in, but like all the way to the back of your brain, and you don't even like realize that it's there. But then later on in life, a
Yeah.
situation might come up, and then you'll be like, oh, I remember reading about that when I was like 20, and I was trying to figure out my finances. So yeah, that's what I'm currently doing, man, in that phase of just educating and hopefully it'll pay off.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting that you mentioned the knowledge and the education that you have to gain by reading all of these financial books and sorting advice from our older people, like
Sure.
our family, our parents, uncles, and even just people that are already in the financial world that are well established. And it's this interesting thing that Hamza says. It's like usually you should trust their brain more than you trust yours because they've already achieved what you wanted to achieve.
Hmm.
So it's like just always trying to get the wisdom from them. Like
Sure.
that's why it's very good, and it's really important to, to take the time out and educate yourself on this because it's going to be beneficial in the long run. But what I'd like to mention is it's interesting how we've grown with this channel. And
Mm.
that was very important for us in the beginning. Like that's why we started off so young, because we could have waited until we were well established and then started giving the advice to others. But it's so cool that we can grow up the channel, and as we
Sure.
gain information, then we can share it through, and we can even learn from our viewers and those that are subscribed to us. So getting into the next point, it would be that once you've gained this financial knowledge, when you start going into the working world, you have to practice what you've learned. So you have to apply it. And sometimes it's going to be difficult because it might be out of the norm. It wouldn't might necessarily not be what our parents did when they started working. It might be something
Different
totally
world, yeah.
different. So it will be
Mm.
a yeah, it's going to be a different world. It's going to be different steps that we take because we've had the privilege to learn or gain this knowledge from a young age, just gain more financial literacy. So it's going to be a bit difficult in the fact that we'll see our peers are practicing something different. They might straight up go and buy a nice car or a big house, and and get their children, get married, settle down, kind of like how it's always been seen. Whereas we might be looking at another route. We might
Mm.
not buy a house immediately. We might buy a rental property. We don't necessarily know how it's going to go. So it's definitely going to take discipline, because sometimes you'll feel like
Sure.
you're swimming against the stream and you're not going with the flow. And that is what others do. And that's why there's only such a few percentage of people that really, achieve financial freedom. It's because they took a different route and they stuck to
Yeah.
it, even though it seemed a bit more difficult.
That's so good, man. That's so good. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that you feel
Yeah.
actually. And it's interesting
Mm,
when you start to do research on this kind of stuff, you hear things like you got to avoid becoming like a slave to, the rat race and so on, as
mm,
you mentioned before. And and sometimes that kind of language can sound like quite extreme. You're like, oh, surely it's not like that bad. But I think it's something that you have to take very seriously here. Like,
mm,
because you think,
definitely.
okay, yeah, I've got time, and I think everyone thinks they're going to be successful. Everyone is like, okay, I'm going to be that guy
Mm,
that something's going to go right for me at some point. But you have to take it seriously, like you say, man. And that's why we spoke about the educating yourself part of it, because if you don't take it seriously, then like how are you expecting to reach that level of wealth or that level of success? If you're just going to do the same thing as everyone
mm.
else, yeah, like how what's going to make you stand out? Like, do you really believe that some things just going to fall on your plate? You can't rely on that kind of thing, hey man. So yeah, very good point that you
No,
make,
no,
bro. This is the
definitely
kind of
not.
thing, and I think sometimes we always talk about being patient and so on, which is very good, but at the same time you also have to
Mm,
realize that you have to wake up at some point here. Like you can't like be a child forever and like not think about these kind of things, the financial
no.
side of things. Yeah, soon enough you'll realize you're
Yeah.
like 30 years old and you haven't got anything built up. Like it. I know that kind of
Yeah.
thing can happen quite quickly. I mean, just thinking about how fast the last 3 years have gone. Like we're coming, well, at least I'm coming towards the end of my degree. I know you've got one more year left, but you're also like
One
nearing
more
the
year
end, bro.
left.
So it's yeah, definitely worth waking up to, man. So One thing that I've heard quite a lot, bro, from people that I look up to, namely a guy called First Man on YouTube. One thing that he talks about quite a lot is the idea of building up a lump sum. So a lump sum would be just a large amount of money that you can use to invest in either yourself, in some kind of business, or in some kind of investment. And
Mm,
what that allows you to do, man, is just take risks. I know that you and I have been finding ways to make money over the last few years, but obviously, as a student, you don't have the ability to earn like a large amount of income. So if we're making investments, it's like usually like a small little amount here, a small little amount there, and that kind of stuff does add up. Always great. But if you get to the point where you've built up, let's say, I mean, I'm going to talk in rands here, as we are, I'm in South Africa, and I'm sure some of the viewers are as well. But you can apply it, to any currency. But let's say like a
mm,
sum of like 100,000 or like 200,000 rand. What that allows you to do is like really take a risk. You could either put that into, let's say you have like a business idea. If you're on the entrepreneurial side of things and you've saved up that amount of money, um, that allows you to like actually give yourself some backing to start the business. So you might need to buy like a space to open your shop, or maybe you need to buy, you need to pay someone to make a website for you or something. So you need a large amount of capital to get any kind of business off the ground. And it's the same, even if, let's say you're not looking to start a business, but with that piece of money, you perhaps want to get into property. You could put like 100,000, let's say 200,000 rand deposit down on the house. And that means that your mortgage repayments obviously are going to be quite a lot less. And I know we're going to get into
mm,
the conversation of property and whether you should be looking to buy property for yourself straight out of university. But I think this is just the kind of doors that having a lump sum of money opens to you. And what it also allows you to do, to be fair, is it just gives you time. Because if
mm.
you've got that large amount of sum of money lying around, you can even live off it for a while you are waiting for something to come along. Like maybe a good job opportunity, or maybe you are
Yes.
um, making go of this business that you've just created. That sum of money will allow
Mm,
you to, okay, I'm going to spend 6 months just going for this new idea that I have, and I need this time to actually give it a go. So I think that's something that I'm
mm,
definitely going to start looking to do, is just building up a large lump sum of money, which will give me the ability to take risks, and take risks that'll pay off on a much larger extent. Like I said, if you're investing 500 rand, the risk to reward ratio is not half as high as if you're investing a much
mm.
larger sum of money. So that's definitely a
Yeah.
piece of advice that I think, I mean, it's not something I've put into play yet, but I can see in his life how it paid off. He put all of that money into his business, and you see where he is now. From initially, he was just like speaking about it. Okay, cool. I've saved up this amount of money. I know he invested stuff into like crypto, and he made some good investments which paid off. So yeah, I think having that large sum of money is definitely worth it. But obviously, it takes time to build that up. So you might get your first job out of university, and you're earning like a decent little wage. But yeah, start trying to build a sum of money like that up, because that'll allow maybe in like 5 years you've got that amount of money built up, and then that's what you can put towards that big investment.
Yeah.
Let me know what
I
your thoughts on
definitely
that are.
agree with that, man. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And it's even going to make sense going into the next point that I want to add. But
Mm,
before I get into the next point, is that, how you said that you have this amount of this lump sum, and it's something that, even if let's say there's a crisis at your company and your company
sure.
starts going down, then you get
Yeah,
laid
exactly.
off.
Exactly.
You don't have any other cash, but because you have this lump sum, you can survive without having to take out a loan and getting into more debt. And so I totally agree with that, because once you've got this amount of money, you can 10 exit, which means you can make 2 million off of it, just knowing that you're going into the right investments. Obviously,
Sure.
when you're taking that risk, you must make sure that it's a calculated risk. And like we say, you've been doing your research. And I like to
Mm,
say, or to talk about the 3 E's, which I've also recently learned from this financial webinar that I'm attending. So
mm,
it speaks about how you have to, you know, you have to have the expertise, you have to have the education, and you have to have excess cash. So what this lump sum does, it gives you the excess cash, and
Yes.
like you're watching this video right now, you're getting the financial education, and then the expertise you get from, just doing things in life, learning and getting that experience. So once you've got these three E's, that's when you can, make a good investment that's
Very good
definitely
stuff.
going to pay out. And you're going to be able to risk this money because it's not coming from your income necessarily, like that you'll need on a monthly basis. All right. So, yeah, getting into my next point, it is having as little debt as possible. So I know once we start working, receiving this big amount of money, always like the banks start targeting us because they see, okay, this
Sure.
person makes this amount of money, so they'll be like, you qualify for this amount of a credit card that you can take out. You can buy this house, you can get this car. So they'll just try and get you
They know what they're
to
doing. Yeah.
take out loans from them. Yeah, they know what they're doing because obviously once you take out loans, they can make lots of money off of you. But where you have to wake up is that there is debt that you'll need to get because you won't have the amount of cash available, to get a property, let's say, or to get a car. But this is where you can look at being a bit more patient. So
Mm,
it's like being patient in the work you put in. So you can't just be patient and do nothing about life. You have to be putting in the work and have patience and trust in the work, trust in the
that's good.
process. So I don't think you should take out credit card debt. You must try and live on your cash as much as possible. Try and like make your budget work so that
Mm,
you don't have to take out or have credit to survive or maintain your lifestyle. So that's where we talk about having a lifestyle that's below your means,
yep.
below what you earn, rather so that you have amount of money left to save. And then also when you get your first car, you can look at a car. I know we mentioned this before we started the video, of a car that's going to be fuel efficient and that's going to be second hand and not as expensive as buying a new car straight right out the bat. And
That's the thing.
when you're looking to get into property, you might delay it a bit and, you know, just stick it out with your parents, stay where they are living, because we have that opportunity and we've got that advantage. We don't have to straight up go and look for a place to stay. So this is definitely something you can do to, keep your debt as low as possible and save as much so that you can get that lump sum and then start looking to get other streams of income besides what your salary. So like
Exactly that.
you also mentioned portfolio income, and then there's the another one that starts with the P that you can
Yeah. So
mention.
the three incomes, we have an ordinary income, which will just be
Mhm.
from
Yeah,
um your salary. And portfolio
salary.
income is
Hmm.
income that you're making from any type of like stock or dividends in some type of investment that you've made. And then passive.
Hmm.
Passive is that one.
Passive income. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. So once you start getting these incomes, you can use
Big time.
them to start buying like a nice luxury or a nice good car, and then you can
Very good
use this
advice.
to start getting into property and so forth. So yeah, I would like to just add another point before I hand it over to you is that, when you're looking at property, just to get into it, you might be like, let me get my first house, and then yeah, then you have to start like paying this off for the next 20 to 30 years. But what you can do is, one, while you're still staying at your parents for a couple of years, you might look into buying a rental property that pays itself off, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive property, just so that you start getting real estate on your name. Another option that I have is you buy you buy a nice piece of property that has a spare room in the yard, which you usually call like a flat. And
Mm.
then, since you're still single, you don't have any children yet, you can move into that space and you can rent out the big house so that it pays off itself for like the first couple of
Sure.
years. So this is what you can look into before
Hmm,
you buy your own personal property that you stay in.
it's good, man. Sure. I think what's
Yeah,
sticks out to me from what you said there, bro, is just like the reality of the fact that you have to put in like some sacrifices here. So obviously it would be nice to
definitely.
get like like a slightly flashy car that you can get. Maybe, living with
Mm,
your parents isn't like the most flashy thing that you can do. So again, you can like move out, get an apartment. But I think sometimes I think like how like it's so difficult to build up a lump sum, of like that amount, like 200,000. It's like, yo, that looks seems almost unattainable. But if
mm,
you think about it, if like you say, if you cut down on that amount of money that you would be spending on a house and a car, for example, if you're paying like
mm,
monthly installments on your car, it's usually like won't be much less than 2,000 rand a month. And then rent as well. I mean, sheesh, in Cape Town, unless you're sharing with someone, you're not going to be paying less than around 8,000 rand a month. So that in total is then 10,000 rand a month that you would be spending
mm,
on your car and your mortgage, which you can then put towards that lump sum. So, sometimes these things seem unattainable. You're like, oh, how am I going to get there? But that's the kind of saving that really makes a difference. And yeah, but I love the points that you
mm.
made there, man. I want to also make a point, bro, similarly to what you said, but mainly about the fact that the biggest goal that you should have coming out of university is just to start generating income. And you spoke about the three different types of
Mm,
income there. Um, Try and get as
mm,
many of those as possible. Don't just focus on your ordinary income, like your salary. Try and put some money into investments, which is going to bring you more income. Build up a passive income, which can be something like this, YouTube. Um,
mm.
these kind of things will really help you out because what's going to make you wealthy or successful at the end of the day is making income here, man, not saving. And I think I fall into this trap, so
Yes.
that's why I wanted to talk about it for a while because I'm sure if it happened to me, then other people might have gone through the same thing. Where I almost thought that like saving was the thing that's
Mm,
going to make you rich. As long as you're putting money aside every month, then that's what's going to make you successful. But what I've realized and the advice that I've received from books that I've read and YouTubers that I've watched and people that I look up to who have spoken to about it is the fact that saving
mm.
obviously is a good thing to do, like not to undermine the importance of saving, but you're not going to become rich by,
Yeah.
like taking the bus instead of driving to work. You know what I mean? That's not what's going to make you rich. It's going to save you a few pennies every month, which is great.
Mm,
But what's going to make you rich is focusing your time and efforts into generating income. So definitely the focus of your time and efforts, like I said, should be into just generating different forms of income. Work extra hours at work if you can. Like I said, if you've got spare money, put it into an investment that's going to keep bringing you in money. That's what I've been trying to do recently. Putting some money into stocks. It went up for a while, but to be fair, stocks can also go down. So sometimes you're like,
go down.
did I
Yeah.
make a good investment? But that's the risks you got to take. And
Mm,
but yeah, I think that's one thing to note is just focus on that point of generating income rather than like saving money because saving money is important, but it's not what's going to make you rich actually.
mm. No, I agree with that. And then another last thing that I would like to mention personally is that you shouldn't let your failures define you. And let's say you've started a business, it goes down. You should see experience gained and a lesson learned. And
Mm,
this is where the expertise is really important, is that you can try again, you can start up another business. You shouldn't let that piece of failure define you. And even let's say you go into investment and the investment
mm,
doesn't work out,
yeah,
you shouldn't then say, no, I'm never going to invest ever in my life again. You just lose money. You have to, try, and you have to learn. And whatever you've learned in the first investment that you make, you can then avoid the mistakes that you've made, and you can look into making smart investments. And this is initially going being able to make a good investment, and then build off a lot of money out of it. And also, lastly, is that when you're doing financial advice, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be the richest person in the world, like you're trying to make billions. It's just to be able to be financially free and able to not depend on your salary and informal employment. It's rather to be able to say I can even survive when or not even survive, but live a good life and sustain myself when I'm not getting a monthly salary from someone else. Because this is where you get the freedom. So it's not about making the most money, but it's just about not stuck in the rat race and always being dependent on the salary for the rest of your life.
That's exactly it, brother. And I know the first step to, like, as we said, the first step to achieving all of these things that we've been speaking about is just having these kind of conversations. And we've got an exciting few years
Mm,
ahead of us, some big financial decisions that are going to be put in front of us. And that's why we wanted to have this kind of
yeah.
conversation today, just to start thinking about that. And yeah, let us know in the comments if this is something that you are spending time thinking about, if you're interested in this kind of in this kind of content, and also if there's any piece of advice that you would like us to cover, maybe if it's specifically about property. I mean,
Mm,
I know Daniel's very well informed, on property and that kind of stuff. So yeah, let us know in the comments section what your thoughts are. But I really enjoyed the conversation, bro. It was good to hear your advice, and yeah, thanks for the conversation. I hope everyone listening or watching has enjoyed, and we'll definitely see you in the next one.